I mean, the big surprise, welcome to the podcast, is...
Sorry, I was taking
I had to make sure I put it in at the start this week because people complained when I put it in halfway through the programme this week. But I didn't need to put it in.
Welcome to the podcast?
Yeah, welcome to the podcast. Just in case if people are listening on Steve Mascot FM, what's his job title on the telly?
Content director.
I think people believed my tweet when I announced myself as lead executive director of broadcasting and content. It's not my real job. I don't have a job title. It's like when I was at Wakefield, I don't have a job title.
Person online.
Person who is here. But it is 4020, the live podcast for the 17th of February. We've got past Valentine's Day. It existed.
It was a loving.
Yeah.
A rugby league loving.
So there's something else I was going to say, but I can't remember what it was. It can't have been important because we've got lots to talk about.
Thousands of people tuning in because there are so many issues.
Let's find out. All the issues. John Davidson's here. We've put him as far away from the microphone as possible for all the people who like to come.
Other than him being in another
That's
room.
already a lie. That's your first lie of the episode, Rich. You've got 2 microphones and one of them's next to me.
Well, I've got 3, really. No, but that's for the podcast. That's the podcast.
I never said I could count.
Well, and Super League's back. It's back. It happened. Do we start with Salford or do we leave it till the middle? This is
Let's start with Wigan.
Start with Wigan and League. 1-0.
Super League.
The greatest opening game ever. How much did the sport waste, as in Sky and Wigan, on Michael Buffer to come out and do his catchphrase? Do you think, Michael?
Well, he married somebody in the last Wigan chapel,
and it did get media coverage.
I think Sky was the one paying for Mr. Buffer, not Wigan.
He got the coverage. So
I think it was great.
As opposed to Salford, who have got no money, having the Happy Mondays there on Saturday.
He's 80 years old. He looks like he's about 55 because he's had a lot of surgery and a lot of but he's got the catchphrase.
But he didn't do the rolling arm.
I know. I reckon that's like an extra 50 grand. Yeah.
It probably is.
But we've got that now on tape for the remainder of this. I presume there isn't a restriction on usage.
Is it going to be like rugby league is a family game?
We're going to have paid him to say they're team players, haven't they?
Yeah.
He's going to come out and say Julian Timber and whatever. All the other players.
What I didn't understand
after
that game, which I have to admit was one of the most enjoyable and intense opening games I've ever seen.
There was no points, but so it was boring.
Why were some people of a rugby league persuasion on various social media afterwards saying it was a dull and boring game?
I enjoyed it.
I thought
I'm a simple person
standard and the intensity and the excitement was as high as I've known for an opening game. We should have taken nothing but pride from that. The fact that it was 0-0, which we'd never had before after 80 minutes, 1-0 a result we hadn't had in the Super League era, then that was picked up by loads of media outlets. I don't think Lee were given as much credit as they deserved because everybody was watching going, they must crack in a minute, they'll surely crack in a minute. They can't possibly keep this up. This Wigan team knows how to grind you down. We've seen it in the playoffs and the grand final. They don't concede points. You make a mistake, they score. That's how it ends. And they didn't. They were absolutely phenomenal, Lee. And I didn't pick that.
I think when Wakefield played Hull a few years ago, it was 0-0 for a long time. That was dreadful, and we all just wanted it to finish 0-0 because at least we could get something out of it. Whereas this, it was good.
You can have, much like in football, you can have boring 0-0s and you can have intense. Impressive 0-0s, and I think it was the latter.
And it wasn't that Wigan didn't create chances. They obviously had a try disallowed, and there was a second half 3-on-1 overlap that Jaifield decided he was going to keep the ball. So there were chances.
I think some of the game management towards the end.
Wow, the league composure in defence. Oh, yeah. Particularly as they had 5 new players. And again, anyone will tell you, those first couple of games when you're integrating a new team, difficult, but they were sensational.
I think most people, considering the players that Leave lost, particularly in the forward pack, Moni, Kai O'Donnell, and Asiasta. I could almost say, the guy who plays for Hull, Moylan leaving, would take some time for them to gel, but they were very impressive. Yeah, I think the game management Wigan towards the end, had a terrible drop goal attempt, and
they never put themselves in position for one of them.
Well, we've got to remember they had 2 players binned.
Yes.
So the fact that they held on and kept Lee out was also remarkable. So I think the level of intensity, as you said, the level of intent. Both teams put on a great display, and I don't see. I know we had 2 Golden Point games, didn't we? I don't get all the moaning about Golden Point. Like, Golden Point is great. Obviously, not every game of Golden Point. Sometimes will be misstruck goals, but I think generally it's a positive, and you get more rugby league for your buck.
Do you
More
not
bang
think
for your
that
buck.
every time we come round to a Golden Point game, you could think, I could write another article saying we should scrap Golden Point, and then the next week you couldn't think.
Because I don't write for clicks, Rich. Actually, try and interesting news. Like it's a different model. It's the anti-journalism.
So why did people first of all say that game was only for the purists, and then why did some of the purists say we didn't enjoy that game? It's like, have we been conditioned to expect something different? If that had been a playoff semi-final to get to Old Trafford, we would have been going, this is the, highest quality rugby league.
Sneezing fit on the podcast.
It's not quite as cold in here as it might look.
It is cold.
But we have got a fire by your feet. It's back.
If that's a fire, then...
It's not making a noise though this time, so it's okay.
It's back.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what the noise has been. That's,
Super League and the heater.
That was annoying me. I was
1895
going to write a horrible anonymous comment, but I didn't.
Oh, by the way, I should point out that Phil Capel, this is the real Phil Capel, not the one pretending to be him on the BBC website. You haven't seen this, have you? Someone's using your name on the BBC Sport comments section.
Really?
Yeah, but everyone knows it's not you because they're writing like things that you wouldn't say. So.
Okay.
This is it, love of republicanism. Americans.
Nothing wrong with Americans.
I'll be there next week. I love Americans.
The BBC Sport website.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't even know whether they've got comments on there. Did you see the fight at the ice hockey, by the way?
No.
USA Canada. Right, they've
Oh,
scrapped,
yes.
they've
yes,
scrapped
yes,
the All-Star
yes.
game because the All-Star game is rubbish.
Yes.
It's just
So is this like the NHL All-Star game?
They've created a Four Nations tournament.
4 nations?
Right?
Oh, well.
So they've put Finland and Sweden in there.
Who's in charge?
you
Jeff Carr?
Because you can't have Russia. You can't have Russia, can you? Because Russia doesn't
How many
exist.
Russian players are in the NHL?
Well, there are probably a few,
Okay.
yeah, but they don't. Russia doesn't exist.
Couldn't have Europe?
Well, they've got Finland and Sweden,
Right.
USA and Canada.
Yeah.
And the USA and Canada played on Saturday night in Toronto. Booed the national anthem because obviously...
Does the winner get the border or something?
maybe in the
Niagara
if they play in the
Falls.
final. So obviously the Canadians are a bit upset with America at the minute. Not all of them,
Understandably.
but certain... So they booed the national anthem. 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the game.
The main thing is, though, did Keithley tweet about it?
They haven't, I don't think.
Yet.
Yet.
With a horrible AI image.
No. But one of
That's a
the
shame.
Keithley people's in the Attitude Top 100 people, so...
What's the attitude?
It's like a gay magazine.
Right,
He's in the
okay.
top 100 people. So,
I have to subscribe.
yeah. But yeah, there are lots of fights. I can't. Why were we talking about
How
America?
did we get into that?
It was something to do with America.
I don't know.
It's about Phil's anonymous.
Oh yeah, the BBC.
stalker
That
on
was
the
it, yeah.
BBC.
That's the only time the ice hockey gets on the BBC website when there's a fight. Basketball's on.
But
there
what
every
was
day.
it? 20 odd thousand.
Yeah,
Michael
record
Buffer.
crowd.
I think there was.
The Lathams, or whatever they're
Yep.
called.
Not
Latham.
Latham.
Not the Lathams.
No.
the
Not
Lathams.
No, I
funny
thought it was.
That was funny though. Did you see Mike Latham, the lead promotion that they put out that the
Oh no, I didn't see this now.
Mike
I'm
Mike
muted me, I
Latham
don't know. Not
Was
thought
that-
it
was
was
that-
him from doing the pre-match.
was that funny,
very
Phil?
good? It was very good.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was. I think it was a great opener, and I think everyone's been talking rightly about how good Wigan were last year, and everyone's tipped them to win again, and they all got knocked off in round 1. So we want
home.
drama
At home.
And also, what about the clock situation? I mean, that was pure Super League, though, isn't it? Like,
but what I didn't understand there is
just take your what? Just
rugby league's been
Well-
played for years without a big screen, and
Yeah.
even though there have been games without the big screen,
Yes.
which we played Golden Point. in,
The
so what was
issue
point?
wasn't that the referee had a watch,
No.
because we have independent timekeepers. It was that the crowd and the players couldn't see
Well,
in the
just play
stadium.
on. Just keep playing.
But it was funny watching Brian Carney, who I thought was excellent again, melt down. Has it?
yes,
That was funny.
shambolic, I believe.
That
the
was
word
funny.
used.
I thought it was odd that I saw an article this week comparing him to a different TV presenter, but one who's done less TV work than him. I thought, well, that's a strange thing to compare Brian Carney to.
I thought it was brilliant on every level. To the extent, talking to Brian Carney, that the following day, even a national radio station, Talk Sport, had Brian Carney on to talk to them about what
Brian Carney.
it had reached. The people that would normally be talking Cockney football at the time, previewing that weekend's.
That's a very stereotypical view of that radio station, Phil.
Well, no, but
However-
there would have been on a Friday afternoon.
How did Chelsea get on this week?
We just had another Cockney manager give us a press conference. Here it is live. But they had Brian Carney on talking about this historic event, and that wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been a historic event.
I thought it was a great open to the season, and it kind of continued through the round, didn't we? We had upsets, we had almost upsets.
5 out of 6. We had a lot to talk about. And the 6th was the
we had Leeds in crisis.
Was there a bit of needle, do you think, on the Sky coverage? Because Brian Carney's off to Vegas, as he's mentioned lots of times, but Jenna's not going to Vegas. I think I need to be pro Jenna just in case that on Thursday they get desperate and need to speak to someone in the press box. And they should get me and you on, John.
Do you think this will be the
we,
new...
we could be the Matt Shaw and Steve Mascott of Wakefield versus Hull KR.
Do you think this
Give
will
yourself
be
a job title.
Their new... every game now they have to go to the press box.
Well, they might stop that for...
I'm not sure that's going to last very long, to be honest.
When you've got 3 journos in some games, then it won't look too good.
No. Well, I think there were 3 people at Wakefield Gull, but that was the Challenge Cup, and 2 of them were radio.
A big game.
Yeah.
Gull won again this week.
And now they've got Barrow, who was skint, so they, we'll talk about the 1895 Cup in a bit, because I'll forget the results up on my phone. Lads, says Kevin. Hi, Kevin. He'll be happy, because Warrington won. And they won.
That's all you need to do.
Not a good performance
in week 1 is win.
Not a good performance.
What madman said that about the standard of Lee and Wigan? Lee Wigan was an amazing game. You have to appreciate shutouts more than big scores, in my opinion. What's his name's good, isn't he? Edwin Pape. He's good.
He almost turned it around the minute he came on. The people that can do that come off the bench and have an instant impact. Fantastic.
I think the way that Lee used that, essentially 3 hookers, Matt Davis playing a bit of 13 and playing a bit of a hooker with Brad Dwyer.
Yeah, I was surprised they started with Brad Dwyer, but he was good.
Well, I think it's just that dynamic, and then you bring a Pape on and there's extra punch.
I just thought
very quick around the rucks.
They keep Dwyer's out-and-out pace against the tiring defence, but it worked.
If you think about the last time those 2 teams met in the semi-finals and Lee were absolutely battered. Massive turnaround.
The one guy who hasn't had enough credit in this is Adrian Lamb.
And they won a trophy as well, apparently.
Although,
so that's good.
about that, what did he say? One of the biggest derbies. Did he say in World Sport or in Rugby League?
But that's,
I mean, slightly below
He's been coach of both teams.
Yeah,
so
but you can talk things up. I get that, but they've got to have some semblance in the truth. And when it's not even in probably the top 15, let alone,
big crowd though. Big crowd will tell you. Massive demand.
I mean, to be fair, they're 5 miles from each other, and we're going to.
It was a school night. It was a school night. So people won't go if it's a school night.
We hate Thursday nights, don't we?
Yeah.
So have we become too attuned to attacking rugby since the sport moved to summer? Is that why people don't appreciate a defensive masterclass, which was edge of the seat stuff?
That's the thing. It wasn't as if it was 0-0 and nothing happened. Was
No.
it? Teams had chances. The defence was great.
The intensity of the play was astonishing.
It felt like
the other thing that we must say, and I'm sure he would say if he was here, and I think he's back next week, I thought the refereeing was outstanding.
Well, hasn't it been hilarious that the Captain's Challenge has been unsuccessful in every single one so far?
But one thing Phil Bentham said in the briefing that the RFL did before the season kicked off was if teams are going to play, the referees are going to stand back and let them play.
Yeah.
And we've got no new rule or law that's been announced this year that we're going to have a crackdown on over the first 2 weeks, and then we're going to forget it. So we're not going to have 75 penalties because somebody didn't kiss the ball before they played it. We're just going to... The rules are virtually the same. We're going to go with it. There's the head high thing, which no doubt will come back to because a couple of people have been charged who I think this time last year would have been facing red cards. We're not doing any of that this year. We're going what the game is, go out and play it. If you play it, if you don't mess around and play the ball, we don't have to get involved. We're not going to. Something like 4 penalties in all in that game, and it was 1-1 for a lot for I
think Adam Kieran one was spot on.
And I think Liam Moore
he got 5 points, which
deserves huge credit for that game being as exciting and intense as it was because we didn't have stoppages.
This new disciplinary thing, it's not as complicated as people think, is it? Because it's just basically the grades were assessed a point, and when you get so many points, you get banned.
Like a driving.
And you can appeal it, but if it's frivolous, which was our favourite thing, then you get more points.
It's a sliding scale.
Can you go on a course on Zoom that takes 3 hours?
It would be good. It would be like first offence.
School.
But you can't go on it more than once in 3 years.
So Big Jared,
Not that I know anything
Big Jared's in trouble.
Not that I know anything about driving test speed awareness courses.
Yeah, you've not got a great record, have you, Phil?
I've got a great record. I've been on 3 and passed them all.
So hitting people in the head course. Don't hit people in the head. Don't do that. That's the...
But I think it was a good way for the season to start, and then continued on with well, I think it's probably fair to say Hull FC beating Catalans was an upset.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
100%.
the bookies would have had, and also Catalans being at home.
Yep.
And then Castleford, I mean, they were very lucky.
Well, if they had a goal kicker, they would have kicked.
Who knew goal kicking was important in rugby league?
Well, Hulk did. That's why the side restarted.
And he missed a few, didn't he?
It
was for someone who's such a great goal kicker.
He's got to get used to the ground
and the air.
Slightly
big
more
distance.
rarefied.
Yeah. More polluted, perhaps.
No, Hull's cool. I saw a tweet from the Hull Daily Mail. Hull's cool, apparently. Said the Hull Daily Mail, probably.
Well, you couldn't argue with that, could you? No. But no, I thought that was a fantastic game because I think again everyone was tipping Hull KR to be right up there again this year, and everyone, particularly after the Bradford shock, and Cas were very ordinary, but they really played for Danny Maguire.
I think I watched the first half of Catalan and Hull when you saw enough to know that it was going to end with a Hull victory, and the worry for Catalan is they looked exactly like the Catalan of last year. That they spent the first 25 minutes camped on the Hull line. So first credit to Hull, they can now defend their own line, which they clearly couldn't do last year.
No.
But that obviously says a lot about what John Cartwright's been doing and would give them great confidence and hope going ahead. And that's brilliant because that foundation building block is probably the most important one. But Catalan had the whole team walked off and had a drink at the side of the pitch, still wouldn't have scored. They were terrible. And I know you change your whole spine and it takes time to gel and, but you would have thought they would have come up with something.
I don't get the Tompkins thing. He retired because of a bad knee.
Which hasn't
he's come back and he's not really done anything since he's come back and he's been injured again. So I don't understand that.
He's dyed his hair.
That's great. Luke Kerry retired last year, then unretired, and don't get me wrong, he's been a fantastic player, but how much has he got left in the tank? We don't know.
Arthur Morg was told he was going to be playing scrum half, given the number 7 shirt, finds himself back at full back.
Well,
he's lost his way.
I don't know, Morgan Rouge, are they ready to take control of that team? I think they showed last year they're not. And then you've got
Ben Garcia at hooker rather than
so they don't have an actual. I mean, that's one of the most important positions in any team. They don't have a proper 9. And then Theo Farge is injured. But just, But
last year, Theo was one of the reasons why they didn't score enough points. He didn't integrate particularly.
Well, he's had a bad couple since he left St Helens. I know he's had a lot of injuries, which is a shame. But his form has also dropped off.
That would be a worry. And whereas
I think it'd be more than a worry for
Hull,
Catalans, though.
I just thought Aidan Caesar was excellent, which is good to see.
So he's not brought his West Tigers form, is that what you're saying?
No, I think when he is fit and playing well, he's a very, very good player. The fact that he got an NRL contract at the age of 32 must say there's something about it.
At the worst team.
But there are plenty of people that don't get NRL contracts. He was great.
I don't think there's any doubt of his talent. I think the interesting thing is John Cartwright, as you said, and you remember him as a player. He was tough, he was hard, and he has had a very good coaching career. He's the only coach who's ever done anything with the Gold Coast.
Yep.
He's been assistant at the Roosters and Penrith and
Brisbane.
New South Wales. Brisbane when they got to a grand final. New South Wales when they won State of Origin last year. Phil, just in case you forgot. He's got them fitter. He's got them more committed, and he's an intimidating figure. So they look like they're playing for him. And that's great.
They signed a lot of experienced players, but they got the best out of them in what can be a very hostile environment. 9,000 people there. Big expectation that Catalan were going to turn last season's poor form around, going from grand finalists in 23 to not making the playoffs last year. Big expectation.
How long does Steve McNamara have?
He's got Warrington away this week. I mean, it's week 1, and we'll look back.
but Bernard said last year.
We'll look back.
If it doesn't improve, I'm sacking him.
We will look back in week 20 and see how much impact these results have had in week 1.
Yeah.
So I don't. The answer to your question is I have no idea. But clearly, a run of 3 or 4 defeats leading up to going into the Easter period and the Challenge Cup.
Well, you would think. I mean, Warrington weren't. We'll get to that, but they weren't. They weren't great yesterday. They did win, but they weren't great.
They did what.
But
they
you
had
would
to do.
think, and maybe them like Wigan have got maybe one eye on Vegas.
I just think it's very early in the season.
Of course it is, but you would think Warrington would go into that game being favourites as well.
Well,
so another
Luke
loss.
Litter will be there, so obviously that ramps up the pressure.
It's famous.
Is he gonna throw darts at Luke Keary?
But no, I think
no. Look, the promotion's great. Look,
as good as Hull were, there would be concerns if you were a Catalan.
Well, I only saw the highlights because I was watching the other game. But the interesting thing, when I think Catalan spilled the ball and someone, I think it might have been Cust or whoever it was, there was no one chasing. No. There was no effort, and they just the defence was very.
I think they'd expended a lot of energy in the opening 20-25 minutes, all on the whole line.
But round one,
and come up with nothing, and it's like this happened last year. I don't know. We don't know how to get out of this cycle, and it almost psychologically you could see them deflate during the game.
Well, they've not really replaced Tompkins and Pearce.
It was a classic puncher's response that Hull had been on the ropes for the opening section of the game, and then scored a breakaway try, and then scored 2 more just before half time. Catalan have had all the possession, and they're 18-0 down, and you could almost see them go, "We know how this ends. This isn't good."
Phil says, "Oh, sorry."
I was saying Hull were excellent.
Phil was saying, yeah.
Well, and Phil says Rapana was superb as well. Andrew says Hull FC's winning France probably the most surprising result of the weekend for him. And going into that game because we know what Hull were like last year.
It's a hard place, and as Phil said, it's a hard place to go to. Birmingham. Yeah.
Friday night.
Interesting that they went out for 3 days as well. Which again at the beginning of the season, making it a bonding exercise and taking your team.
Rambler.
They can afford to go out and have a pre-season.
No, I mean that's.
But again, somebody has said, we could use it. Which is not great to be the first team that goes there. The weather's not fantastic. It's not like you're going in the middle of summer. But if we're going away, we'll make the most of it.
And I think you want to make a statement in round one,
and they did. And they did.
Yeah.
I think they go then the Hull KR Castleford game. I think on the back of Castleford's performance in the cup, they pared it right back. It was 5 drives and a kick, and don't make any mistakes. 100% completion.
The completion was off the charts, wasn't it?
But that's sensible, isn't it? Like
of course.
We need to go as back to basics as you can possibly go, and if we do it right, we'll be harder to break down.
You're not going to be battered if you complete high. That's a fact.
I think Hull KR may have had a sense of complacency about them as well.
Yeah.
Which Willie Peters will knock out of them, because that isn't something that he would conscience at all. But yeah, Cass rewarded their fans having let them down with it 5 days before. So it was a classic. Let's see what you've got. You've got something. We'll follow you next week. So
definitely.
And they should have won it. I mean, I know they haven't got a real regular goal kicker, and it's a big ass 2 weeks running on Tex Hoy, and he's missed both of them. So. That is something they need to address, but they really should have won that game.
Well, now Fletcher Rooney's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Can he kick? This is the next.
It's a nice step. Well, nice 2 steps. Yeah.
The thing with all young players is, can they do it over a 27 rounds? Can you even expect them to do it over a 27? At what point do you have to withdraw Fletcher Rooney and say, right, we need to protect him for his own good?
I don't think the depth's there at Castleford to be withdrawing
anyone. But I'm just saying they've got, like every young player, every club, you've got to be careful they don't get overexposed, and that's what happened to Hull last year.
Ian says it's shocking to see the champions not win a game or score a point so far this year.
But it is 7 years since they last conceded, as we kept getting reminded on Sky.
They should have put a clock up for that as well.
433 minutes.
They had the countdown clock for the game kicking off, and they had the countdown clock for Vegas. They should have one counting for when Wigan last conceded.
Which, when you think you don't concede a try, but you lose.
Yeah,
doesn't happen very often. No.
Ian, people say on podcasts that they don't appreciate them, but Ian, we appreciate you on this podcast. So that was Friday and Thursday.
And Rugby League is ascending in
Phil,
We then get Saturday afternoon, and it goes up a notch further.
Leeds in crisis. It's
Phil
back.
had a
It's
great
back.
time at Henley,
back.
didn't he? He was a long-time Rhinos fan.
You forget that I've seen it all.
We've won the cup now.
You
We're
saw
off.
the split in
I've seen
1995.
everything. Nothing is a surprise.
No, I mean,
Wakefield's cup final.
yeah.
I saw
You saw the kick in the
Queensland
mud.
win 58-3 there.
Yeah.
Wakefields cup
58
final.
when Queensland, it was a bad day. It was funny not playing.
You're going to wear a sky blue suit, aren't you? You're going to get a sky blue suit just to wind Phil up.
Sure, I can do that. No, I must admit, I unfortunately had to do some parenting on the weekend, so I only saw bits of the.
Well, much like
of
the
first
Sky
half.
Sports viewers, because they didn't see anything
But-
either. Well,
Wakefield were great, weren't they?
I think, again,
I thought you know, they're back in Super League. They've recruited well, but it'll be a consolidating season. You know, they're not going to be in the top 4 or 5. I thought Leeds would be much. That's very good, Rich.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
much improved, but Wakefield were just.
I
they
think-
started with great intensity, didn't they? And
if
they
you're
really
looking
took
at
it to 'em.
two sides of the coin, then on the Leeds side, it didn't look like enough had changed. So all the promise of Brad Arthur's
But a lot
come
has
in,
changed.
he's got them fitter, they've got a slightly different personality.
New fullback.
It looked in terms of how they approached the game that not enough had changed, that their forwards weren't dominant enough, the halves didn't get into the game, and they didn't create enough chances. So, jury's still out on Leeds, and obviously the influence that Brad Arthur has had. Wakefield, on the other hand, forget Leeds.
I know. I was
Grand
just going to
final.
ask you.
No,
I was
Put
going
your
to ask
tickets-
you
put
what
your
was
tickets
the
now.
mood like at Henley
Put
at
your-
full time?
Oh,
Well, the bulk of the 15,500 that were there were disappointed. They were intensely disappointed, particularly the older end of the support base who expected more. But shouldn't in any way detract from the way Wakefield played in terms of taking the game to Leeds right from the beginning. The fact that they had the dominant player on the field, which I think we were saying just before we came on air, that whether you support a team or not, to see someone like Jake Truman be able to flourish and get back to the kind of levels that we know that he's capable of. He ran that game. He was sensational.
would he have been your man of the match then rather than Max Jowett?
100%. Absolutely 100%. I thought he was outstanding. But more than anything, Mike McMeekin was sensational up front as well. Matty Staunton was fantastic. What it was that sense of unity. They clearly came with an idea of who they were, what they were going to do, how they were going to play. Their 1,500 or so fans, most of whom were on the Western Terrace, were sensational throughout, and they played to that. This is a big occasion. We need to make a statement. We're going to do what we want to do. They were unfortunate not to be a further try ahead, because I still think Ollie Pratt's disallowed try was a try.
Well, no one's seen the final Leeds try, so that hasn't counted.
Well,
so.
that was a barge over from close in.
You could have said it was from 100 yards. It went through every pair
No,
of hands
110.
twice.
They got it from right.
It's like Leeds and Southampton from the 70s all over again.
What I thought summed up Wakefield more than anything was that with about 11, 12 minutes to go, Morgan Gannon broke through and looked like he was going to score, and that would have made it 14-12 with enough time for perhaps the momentum to shift, but it was the most sensational last-ditch tackle that stopped him. Jowett was part of that, which is possibly why he got the man of the match. But again, that desire that Wakefield showed was exemplary. If they can back it up at 5-day turnaround, 6-day turnaround, Thursday they're playing, aren't they?
6 days.
Thursday night, yeah.
Then that's not a lot, because that's not what they've experienced in the Championship. It's been like you play on a weekly basis and you're playing against teams that we know are not as good as you. So the motivation is just, can you keep up that level of playing to your potential? This week they're now playing, a team coming off a very big win, who are full of confidence.
No, they're playing Hull KR.
Is it Hull, not St Helens? Oh, St Helens the
Okay,
week
St.
after, isn't
Yeah.
it? Well, right, they're playing.
Not a big win, just
playing,
a very small win.
But they're
A
playing a team
Playing a
with
top
something
team.
to prove.
Unlike Leeds.
With something
Yep.
to prove
Top
this
10.
week.
Yep.
And they're at home, so the pressure now moves a little
Yeah.
bit to, can you back that up?
Just to know, when you said it, great to see Morgan Gannon back with all the issues that
Yeah,
he's had.
and he
you
was-
worry
he was all
about
right.
his
He was all right.
long-term
He was
career
good.
and his health, and just good to see him back playing. But yeah, echo everything you said, Phil. I mean, just massive credit for Wakefield. Great performance,
Yeah.
and just continued the kind of the round of upsets, and then we had.
And the one thing that Darryl Powell said, he is using all of people's predictions and all the bookies' odds to fuel his team. Good.
Why did they listen to
Well, I didn't tip them bottom.
No,
Nobody has tipped them bottom.
I think they maybe 9th or 8th.
He got upset that they were 80-1.
Yeah, but I won't put a quid on 80-1. We're going to win the grand final because we ain't going to win the grand final.
But if you
he hasn't got a great history of winning grand finals.
If we do,
what he has got is
you're going on Thursday.
He's got
I'm looking forward to it.
Very, very committed players.
Went to championship game last year, and I loved the
told off, didn't you?
new set. I did get told off.
By Darryl Powell.
We won't talk about
Darryl Powell.
But it's a lovely stand. It's a lovely facility. So the home of rugby league.
No car parking for the press, but it's a lovely.
No, I'm parking in Sheffield. I'm walking. But no.
Doncaster Road. I'm parking in Doncaster.
It's great to see what's happening in Wakefield, or what's been happening for 18 months. The club's moving in the right direction.
LED boards and everything. New stands behind in the Benidorm flats.
DJ Bar, is it going in?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I do.
DJ Carter.
I think that they're going about things in a way that is sustainable, which.
Sustainability. That's
a great segue.
Brings us in.
It's a great segue, Phil.
Did you like that?
I'm sure there's something else I need to say about Saturday, but I can't think of anything because I wasn't there, just watching it on telly. But
good crowd.
It was very strict. The amount of technical issues Sky had was very unlike them. It was very strange, but hopefully that won't happen again because it does. It's an easy stick for people to beat them with.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of people wanting to beat them because apparently there's millions watching on the BBC.
Well,
and if you the trouble is if you can't record.
Yes,
Sky Plus, and you miss something. I mean that you can't go back.
That is a frustrating thing, but then we can remember what 2 years ago when we had 3 games.
No, we've forgotten that.
We're spoiled. We're spoiled.
Adam Hilton.
We can watch everything.
Helen Skelton. That never happened. None of that stuff happened. Leon Price wearing on the telly didn't happen. Ian, another Ian. Too many Ians.
More than one Ian.
Sky Sports coverage of the Leeds game was shocking. It was. So hopefully, I'm sure they didn't just sit there and go, let's leave it like this, lads. As opposed to me on this programme.
Let's be fair as well. They contract that out. Yeah. So it's not Sky. It's the production company that they've contracted
but they
out.
are broadcasting.
But yes.
So, yeah.
I know what it's like when you're sat there doing the technical stuff and it doesn't work and you go, not here when I get paid properly. But it's like...
You get paid?
Not here. Saturday night, we're all there. We're at BBC One, BBC Two. No, we're watching BBC. Someone was watching Gladiators instead, and then turned over. Gladiators. What's the strangest thing about this whole thing is people going, "This is the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of rugby league," and blah blah. I was listening to LBC on Saturday night, and on their news bulletin at 11 o'clock or whatever it was, they go through all the news, which is boring.
Do they do Cockney football on LBC?
No. Even though, because the L doesn't stand for what it used to do now. It's been retconned. But at the end of the news bulletin, because the news is like Donald Trump's done this and some people have done this and blah, and it gets to the sport bit. Right? In the football, some football teams won, and they said in Super League, this is not a direct quote. St Helens started their season with an 82-0 win over Salford, and Wakefield won a tight West Yorkshire derby against Leeds, and that was it. No context. No. The people outside our bubble.
No.
Spurs women played yesterday against Arsenal on the telly on BBC Two. Arsenal won 5-0. That's a thrashing. There's a thrashing in the top division. I don't know if I'm assuming Spurs put their best team out. What are Saints supposed to do? Just not
I think
score 82 points.
Saints deserve credit for not taking their foot off the gas.
I don't know if they deserve credit for
they do because it becomes after a while it becomes difficult if because an opposed training session.
It was.
So to make,
I mean, you could argue how opposed it was, but it was a training session.
To be as ruthless as that, a point a minute, the widest margin in Super League history.
They seem to play better against Salford than against West Hull, did they? They're right up a bit of score.
Leeds against West the week before.
Look, St Helens, it's nothing to do with St Helens. They're not at fault.
They should have taken it easy on the kids who were put out there by
the problem is this is elite level professional sport. This is not Saturday kickabout.
If you don't know the sport, so we'll look at it in a perspective of people that have a rough idea if they think they know what might be happening, and even we don't really know what's happening. If you're coming to that and you see, we again have said in the past on this programme that a 10 points in rugby league is potentially equivalent to a goal in football.
Yeah, 10 to 12, yeah.
So, effectively, St Helens beat Salford. If this was a football match, 8-0.
Yep.
And Tristan Saylor, who looked fantastic, admittedly, we can't measure how because we don't know.
I wouldn't be putting much in the performance.
But what we got was a narrative that was going on. If you're not a rugby league fan, saying this guy's just come to the league, he's a bit of a superstar. Oh look, that's the equivalent to Erling Haaland.
He's not a bit of a superstar, Phil. Though.
But he still was. We're going to make him.
His dad was a superstar.
But to the outside world, he's the guy they're all talking about before the game and during the game and interviewing him after the game. So if he is the equivalent, let's say it's Manchester City 8, Leicester 0 is the equivalent, and Erling Haaland has scored 4 goals. To the uninitiated, that's what they're seeing. If they're seeing what they believe to be excellence, they're not going to question it in the same way that we've been questioning it and self-harming ourselves.
It was very far from excellence. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying to the outside world, we'll talk about a lot of aspects.
I know what you mean. There's navel gazing. Yeah,
yes,
there is.
And you can get too fixated. And I genuinely don't know. And this is the next bit about how you're going to charge Salford with bringing the game into disrepute.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing here now is if they do decide that this team put out by Salford was weaker than they could have done,
which it was,
then here is the line in the sand. And now from this point forward, forget what's happened before, because we know what's happened before and things haven't been done. But now here, like the disciplinary, we're starting on 0. Here's where we are.
But there's another issue in that because of the betting scandal when St Helens played a youth team at Bradford. We decided we'd bring in announcing the 21-man squads, 48 hours before. So everybody knew who Salford were going to play.
I tried to put a bet on, didn't work.
Including the RFL. They didn't, whether they're right to do it, whether there's morally they're right to do it, they did it, and we all knew they were going to do it. So to retrospectively charge them with bringing the game into disrepute, you can't do that.
Yeah, well, I think that is a separate issue. I think the other issue is why did they do it?
Well,
and what's
I have here in my hand a piece of paper, and this is the Salford.
That was very Abraham Lincoln-esque.
We need this week just to see if there's any corrections. But
for those who don't know, the team that Salford put out against Midlands Hurricanes in the Cup, where they were subject to a £1.2 million salary cap restriction, the same as against St Helens, was Ryan Briley.
Heard of him.
Dion Cross.
Yep.
Esan Masters. Chris Hankinson. Nene MacDonald. Jaden Nicarima. Chris Atkin. Brad Singleton. Kai Morgan. Jack Ormondroyd. Shane Wright. Tiaki Chan. Joe Shorrocks. And the subs who were all used, Matty Foster, Justin Sangaray, Joe Bullock, and Nathan Connell. And now, from what I can remember, Nathan Connell was the only one who started against St Helens.
Why did
if that's a £1.2 million team, then the decision to choose and play reserves and the 3 experienced players that they named were all on the bench. So again, that's the wrong way round. If you think you're supposed to play your strongest team to start with, there's a duty of care issue for Salford there. I think that's the charge they need.
All these subs?
I don't know. They only named 16 players, but the charge for me for Salford would be a duty of care one.
So would you say it was a one finger up to Salford?
I can't think
from Salford to the RFL.
I cannot think of any other reason.
Well, Kevin's asked that question. I don't understand why Rowley would do that. Why? Are they developing a siege mentality? The whole world's against Salford. The whole world's been protecting Salford, and they have lost, if not all, 90-odd% of the sympathy from the general public at large.
It does.
That's the bit I don't understand.
It does seem petulant. I don't know the ins and outs of if they'd met everything the RFL asked of them. I mean, look, perhaps we'll get onto governance of the RFL and what's happening with the RFL later.
I'm sure we will.
The RFL doesn't have a great track record of governance or leadership in sport, and I do find it somewhat hilarious. A lot of people moaning about the RFL in recent months when the same things have been going on for at least a decade.
Well, we're not the Welsh Rugby Union, so just remember that.
Yeah, or the British basketball.
Or the British basketball. Who used to run basketball?
But I don't know if they have. Clearly, you would imagine that they haven't. Otherwise, because if you look at who the RFL with their fit and proper person says, has anyone ever failed it? I mean,
well,
Kukash,
a lot of people,
Chalmers,
a lot of people
David Argyle,
failed it retrospectively.
Yeah. So it just the whole thing just is a bad look. It's just it's real. It's on the BBC. It's on national. But
318,000 people watched it.
Yeah.
So he's the.
What happened to the other 2 million that apparently
watching Gladiators?
They apparently watch Rugby League on the BBC every time.
He's the
some Super League owners.
Well, he's the navel gazing, and we'll come on to him now because that's what I'm going to tell you. Right, come with me as Edouard Paglier.
We had more sort of questions.
Oh, I know. He's staying with this. He's staying with this.
All right.
Come with me now, as Edouard Paglier would say, into the following scenario. Phil Cappan, you are the CEO of this made-up club. Who should we be? We'll be Liverpool. We're Liverpool, right? So you're the CEO.
Okay.
Cumbrian Lakers.
Yeah. John Davidson, he's the coach of this made-up team.
The Reds.
And I'm advising you, right? Salford have done what they've done, and you've decided that you're going to come out and say whatever you want, right? So, and I'm going to say to you, if a journalist asks you, I know this is counterproductive, John, if they ask you, what do you think of Paul Rowley's Salford team? I would say to you, that's a matter for Paul Rowley and Salford. And I would say to you, Phil, that's a matter for Paul
As an
Rowley
owner
and Salford.
of another club, I can't really
You
get involved.
wouldn't say that particular owner maybe had an issue with Paul Rowley previously and may have sacked him and Paul Rowley's father.
Has Carl Fitzpatrick got an issue with Paul Rowley and Salford?
Paul Lakey.
Just coming out to say things for the fun of it.
No, but I mean, they may have other issues about how the Salford situation was handled. They may have been annoyed that they had designs on Salford players that they didn't get to sign.
Let me give you this scenario then. We're getting towards Wembley, right? Warrington have qualified for the Challenge Cup final again. Sam Burgess thinks, right, it's the week before Wembley, I'm going to stick the kids out. Well, Carl Fitzpatrick.
Didn't Hull KL do that 2 years ago?
Carl Fitzpatrick's come out and said, well, this is a disgrace what Salford have done.
And
So
this is
you're
why-
kicking yourself up the backside.
This is why I can't believe there's going to be a charge of bringing the game into disrepute, because the can of worms that will open. I mean, the week before, St Helens quite rightly played a weakened team against West Hull, but surely if you're going to be charged with bringing the game into disrepute because you didn't pay the strongest
there is a little bit.
But you can't. But
I know. We're splitting hairs.
The only thing that I don't understand from a Salford point of view, and we've yet to hear really why they chose to go down that route, is if they miss out on the playoffs on points difference, that'll come back to bite them on the bum.
Well, yeah, but I think also, like, is there guarantees that they play Leeds on
Leeds on Saturday.
Yep. So Thursday midday, we've already got 3 days. From
well,
now.
they reckon it'll go through tomorrow, but again,
they reckon it's very certain, Phil.
So right here's an alternative scenario as to why we've got to this.
Okay.
When was Salford put into special measures? When did the
November.
RFL send Michael Carter in?
Well, I think I'm not sure exactly when Michael Carter got sent in, but they asked for the distribution in November, and I believe they went to special measures.
So, at what point should the governing body, if it's governing, have said, if we don't have the ownership by, let's pick 31st of December?
Oh, I would have said 31st of January, but yeah, okay.
Because we've got a competition to run, and no one club is more important than competition. And if by the 31st of December you've been in negotiations, I understand it's very complicated. It's not just a deal for the team; it's a deal for the stadium. You're dealing with the council. You're dealing with previous owners of the stadium, management groups. You're dealing with shareholders that are owed money. But if you can't bring it to the table by the 31st of December, then we have. I mean, Tony Sutton said it. We have alternative scenarios to deal with that.
Bring in Bradford.
Yeah.
No.
That was one of the scenarios.
Whatever your scenario,
I'm very confident about that.
But whatever your scenario is, we're going to bring it in on the 31st. So even if it means going with 11 teams in Super League, even if it means going, last year we had.
But they looked at this, Phil, but they didn't do anything.
But is that again?
That's the point. They looked at it. The proposals are there, but they didn't do anything.
So again, if you're going to charge people with bringing the game into disrepute, part of the look of what happened this week is because we didn't act soon enough.
But the RFL's been doing this for years. Look at what happened with Toronto the bills that didn't get paid for years. Look at what happened with the Crusaders.
I'm
Look at what happened with Bradford.
merely saying that to put out a statement today that you're potentially going to look at charging Salford and bringing the game into dispute is fraught with difficulty.
Oh, I think there's blame on both sides. Like I think the majority of people want to see Salford saved, and it's great that someone's taken them on, but they need to, and the positivity. I think Richard mentioned it 2 minutes ago. The positivity that was generated early on is pretty much gone, and they haven't really been talking since, even though they promised they would. So the communication's been poor. The RFL positioning from November, I think, has been very poor, because they always say they don't micromanage clubs, but then they have tried to micromanage Salford in this. They've sent in Michael Carter and they've sustainability caps, but then they haven't actually, as you said, enforced anything. So they haven't ensured that the integrity of the competition has actually been maintained for everyone. So it's kind of been sitting on the fence, hasn't it?
So if we take it to the next level of discussion about governance, because, as you know, there is never an agenda on this programme, and we wander from topic to topic.
We do.
Then do you think that the lobbying that seems to be going on in the back, well, not seems to be, we've seen seen the agenda.
It's been going on for months. Right. It's been going on for months.
Is this another example where the top clubs, whoever they may be, and whoever people think they are a top club...
I can tell you who's behind it if you want.
But is this another notch on the flagpole of the RFL where people are saying, we can't allow you to run the sport in the way it's being run anymore, because there's two things happening in the very near future. One is there's going to be a television negotiation, and that's going to be do or die, particularly for the top clubs.
Yeah, which they're very worried about.
Because the bottom clubs are living off meagre possessions anyway, but it's the top clubs cannot survive if they don't start to get improved television deals. And if there ever is substance, and we think there is, in the NRL, even looking at the possibility of investing, how that would look or what it would entail, I don't think anybody knows at the moment. They've got some consultants looking at what it might mean for them, but I don't think that the top clubs now, and they're using what's happening perhaps with Salford as an illustration, have any confidence in the governing body that they can handle this important juncture in the sports history, and they want to do it themselves.
We should say at this point that Salford's situation they find themselves in is of their own doing.
Oh, yeah. And some of it is certainly overspending. Is definitely something
going on holiday when they're given over. That kind of
but I think there's a bigger picture here, that this Salford scenario plays into the fact that the people that want to take power from those that currently have it are being given as much ammunition as they need when something like this happens.
Oh, I think it plays into it, but the plotting has been going on for at least since October.
So what's the issue with Simon Johnson as chairman then? Because as far as I understand it, the CEO is the guy who makes the decisions at the Rugby Football League. And then I
don't think it's Simon Johnson personally. I think it's more to do with the top clubs do not want the RFL dealing with issues that they feel they have to deal with. And the amazing thing, and you'll know probably more about the intricate details of who's involved and who isn't, but was it 5-6 years ago when we had the split? That was caused by insurrection within the Super League clubs themselves.
And they wanted to get rid of Nigel Wood.
But they wanted to bring in Robert Elster, but not all of them wanted to bring in Robert.
Well, no, the ones who were pushing that were Ian Lanigan, McManus, and Simon Moran.
The Super League clubs that were divided now appear to be united, which is an amazing volte-face from some of those clubs.
It is interesting because they've either got collective amnesia,
I don't think
they're just not that clued in at the fact.
I think it's more that they need to act as a collective now to get what they want.
Well, I mean, they are acting in collective with the majority of it, but obviously Huddersfield are against it. I think Wigan were for it, but are now sitting on the fence. But obviously Ian Lanigan doesn't run Wigan.
But they're not.
But the main ones driving it are Leeds and St Helens. But they're supported by Wakefield, they're supported by Castleford, they're supported by Hull KR. I think they're supported by Hull FC as well. Catlands have no say involvement.
They just give us your £1 million
to pay our travel and but I think the whole thing when I found out about it, it didn't surprise me, but the thing that surprised me was that they want Nigel Wood back as in a replacement, and that to me is just.
I think we should.
It's like April Fool's.
But that
again.
needs debate as well, because I don't think they want him back on a full-time basis.
I want him back on an interim basis.
I think they see him as the assassin that is going to do. They want a plan. They want that plan instituted. They want somebody that can produce a report that says we need change. They want somebody to go back to IMG and say, we think we need to renegotiate.
Well, they don't want IMG, the clubs.
Well, but I think
they're not happy with IMG.
But they did 12 months ago, 18 months ago.
But the trouble is they're in a legally binding contract with them, so they have to come up with reasons why that contract isn't being fulfilled, and they need somebody. Find it. Well, the man that they're going to send in is the man who is going to find it. But if they're looking for a rugby league commercial executive chairman as opposed to Frank Slevin, who was non-executive, I don't think that's going to be Nigel Wood. I don't think this process is to put Nigel Wood back in.
No, it's to be RFL chairman.
He is to be the assassin, to do their bidding.
But
that's why I think he's got support.
Ultimately madness, though, that they forced him out in 2018. And also it's madness because he is a part owner of Bradford, so that's another conflict.
Minor now, and I think...
Yeah, he's a part owner. He's not the majority owner, but...
I think he would give that up as well.
But we're talking about... it's just...
No, but...
if you're a rugby league fan of any...
Well, here's the basic thing. So the RFL buy Odsal Stadium.
Yes.
And then
that's
when
another
Nigel Wood's
thing,
at the RFL,
Yeah.
and then Nigel Wood's at Bradford, and they buy the stadium from the RFL. But we don't know how much they've paid for it, or how much the sport has lost in the meantime.
I think
so there's one thing that's just
well, there's about 50 conflicts of interest.
But if you're taking it away from the personality and what we know, and you say we need somebody that's got two things that we're the most interested in at the moment. One is the ability to deal with Sky and get a television deal, and whilst the broadcasting landscape has changed and probably some of the key personnel have changed, and whether he was sufficiently or overcompensatory rewarded for it is another issue completely. But Nigel Wood did the last deal with Sky would be turned for the benefit of the sport for an amount of money that was going up rather than down. So that might be again why some of the Super League clubs. But the other thing is
that was 10 years ago.
Whatever his relationship is with International Rugby League,
I don't imagine it's good, considering the current chairman said it was a tuck shop operation when he was running it, and that's not a compliment if anyone who doesn't know what a tuck shop is.
But he has the ability to go into that room and be a presence. They know him. So again, if the NRL are looking to invest in Super League or whatever it is they want to invest in, it's not going to be Peter V'landys picking up the phone to Simon Johnson saying, "How much do you want?" It's going to be people brokering this deal, and Nigel Wood is somebody who could sit round that table. Now, whether he's the right person, he's got the relationships.
I think the whole thing,
and that's why I think they want him back involved.
The whole thing to me just shows that the clubs and same as RFL should not be running the sport. There should be an independent commission, because they've shown again and again that they can't be given the power to run, because. We look at what happened with the split before. We came back together,
which cost $5 million, which nobody's accepting responsibility for.
Yeah, and the sport is not, being run.
But
in a particularly
if I'm an owner of
manner.
a club and I look at the last 3 or 4 years that I've had to put £1.5 million in to keep us afloat, and I look at the prognosis of where we're going with the potential of the next television deal, which is at the end of 2026, so you'd think. People are talking about it now. What's it going to look like? What do we need to do? What kind of competition do you want? Las Vegas, great. We can make something out of that. Sky will put some money behind that. We think this is big. What else are you going to do? And the clubs go, we need to take control of this, and we need to do it now. I can see why it's happening. I think Simon Johnson is collateral damage in this.
Well, they've already, as I said, you already mentioned, Frank Slevin's already gone.
Yep.
They've already got rid of 2 of the independent directors on Rugby League Commercial, being replaced by McManus and Lakin.
Yep.
Sandy Lindsay, another member of the board, is gone.
Yep.
Or is going to go get forced out with Johnson. You got Rob Hicks, who's been suspended for 5 months now.
This is the other issue, because I think if
the RFL is in crisis.
I don't think you can ignore...
Basically, not just Leeds.
I don't think you can ignore the Robert Hicks element, because I think the top clubs Although they won't say anything publicly because it's still under investigation. I think they're desperate to have him back. I think they feel he's the one administrator within that organisation that can particularly look after the potential litigation that's coming with regards to concussions. And I think that they think it's taken too long for the RFL to investigate this and decide one way or the other what's happening. And this is another reason for them wanting to push the RFL sideways. I think they want him back.
Well, yeah. Well, it's taken 5-6 months. The Steve Ganson thing took 11 months. I mean, it's a joke.
Well, it hints at ineffective leadership.
Yeah, but there's been ineffective leadership for years and years and years.
And clearly, if the clubs take over, there's no indication that there's going to be any more effective leadership. Well, I think they're desperate. The owners want a say now.
But you've got people in there with a track record of, be careful what I say legally, but not a great track record of their own behaviour of paying players and
how did Las Vegas come about?
It came about because Chris Radlinski emailed the NRL. Yeah,
not because Rugby League Commercial and or the RFL thought here's a great opportunity to be involved in.
No, I know, and I think that's
I think that's the way ahead.
And IMG weren't involved in it, and that's a massive But the thing is that if you're the NRL and you're looking at it and you're seeing all these coups and politics going, you're saying, do we want a bar of this?
No,
we don't want to deal. We don't deal with egotistical people who are shouting in the media.
Well, they've got plenty of those in Australia. I think
that's actually incorrect. You don't see many owners, club owners. But you don't see Russell Crowe spouting nonsense every week in a media. You don't see
but they have had owners that have wanted to move the game in their direction. Some very strong personalities.
Yes,
but I don't think they want the whole of rugby league here. They want to cherry pick the bits that they want, and the people that are agitating behind the scenes are the bits that want to be cherry picked. They're putting themselves in a position where, hello, Mr. NRL, Mr. and Mrs. NRL, who's going to pay us all the money we need to get us out the financial strife that we're in. Can we be one of the X number of clubs that you want in this new world? And that's what's got jockeying behind the position. The RFL have to be responsible for every club, supposedly. That's their brief, isn't it? So, that's why the Rugby League Council has a vote from every single club. So they have to be as aware of what Doncaster need and Batley need as they do what Wigan might need. The top clubs are now saying, we want to get some money that will trickle down. We want to look after the rest of the game, but we are in it for...
The interesting
thing
is...
We need to get what we need to get.
The majority of the Super League clubs, I think they've got the support of the majority of the Championship League ones, clubs to get rid of Johnson as well. So there is a widespread
it's interesting
movement.
But I think you've got to look beyond just the Nigel Wood might be coming back headline too many people fixated on.
But I mean, if you look at his track record at the game, and you mentioned his big achievement, but we haven't gone through all the other things.
But I'm just saying,
he was turfed out for a reason.
But the fact that they are mentioning his name, I'm sure he hasn't gone, I'm ready to come back in.
I think it's
like people have gone, who have we got?
Well, that's the thing.
Who we can put in a room, particularly with Sky, who they know that whether he has a working relationship with them or, with the greatest respect to a lot of the people that are trying to do the bidding for the new Sky contract, we almost acquiesced last time. It was, if it's to be believed, and I've no reason to think it isn't, IMG's involvement at the time to renegotiate that contract got it to the level it's at now. It was going to be less than that. The negotiations were such that just give us anything and we'll take. Now that isn't what happened, but it felt like that. And IMG, who get battered from all sides and possibly with due cause, helped in that respect to get us a deal that was above what they originally wanted to pay us because there was no competition in the market.
So technically, there won't be any competition next time around.
I suspect
this is the problem
that the clubs are looking at a bloke that can go in there and have a relationship.
Right. So the clubs are looking at a bloke who was in this role in the past,
I'm not saying it's right.
As opposed to IMG, who are an international media organisation and understand the world of broadcasting. But the Championship's got no deal. What do we get from the BBC?
I think it's been shown that we don't need more people from within the sport who've either failed before. We need someone outside who has experience.
Who are we going to get?
Well, I haven't got a name. I could name a few.
But there isn't anybody we could afford.
Well, if it's,
And that's
as long as
part
it's
of the
not
pro-
someone who
We've
already
had a-
works at the RFL
yeah,
who's from
we-
Hull.
But this is why
we've had a
KIMG.
worldwide
Yeah,
search
and
and
we
come
would
up with a guy
yeah.
that was
Well,
next in line.
Well, that would dictate that we don't do that. That
Yeah.
we actually bring
But I
someone
don't
out.
think the clubs have got the confidence that they're
I
not going to
don't.
do that.
I don't think they want to hand the reins over. I think they want to run the show themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And some of them,
But you
some of
need-
them
Can't
can't
run
even
their
hold
own-
media
They can't
days.
even run
Phil.
their own
Yeah,
club.
Exactly. They can't
But
even market. They can't even market their own
whether they
games.
can or they can't, that's the world we're living in. That they are the big club, and I think they want somebody to come in and do their dirty work for them. And who will do that? Who is thick-skinned enough to be able to do that? Has got a track record of doing
Give John
that.
Quayle a call. He's still going around. Let's bring him over.
I'm just
Ken
saying,
Arthurson. No, look. If you
Blake Solly.
If you look, Blake Solly.
there's
you
a
look.
name for the
You look at the situation with the AFL, and I think it was in the 80s,
I
and
just
they were
think-
struggling. They brought an independent commission,
Yeah.
so they took the
But
power
I
away
think-
from the clubs.
I think this
That's
is-
a massive game. The NRL's done the same
I think
thing.
this is an interim position to get to something like that.
Yeah, but what happens after it?
What happens
We have
after
Nigel
it is
Wood to run a
you-
club review so we get the results we want.
You
It
clear,
entrenches us.
you clear
No.
the ground to be able to build something new. But whether it's the right way of going about it, time will tell. But it'll be interesting. Rugby league will, the RFL may well have a very different role in the sport. Instead of being in charge of strategy, which is part of its brief, it may well become a service industry. So it will appoint the referees, it will do the disciplinary, all of the things that, will sort out fixtures. The administrative side of the game might be done through a governing body, but the strategy will be something else, and that will be partly dictated by what, if anything, the NRL want to buy.
Phil's asked us about how the NRL works. Do the clubs have much of a say in it? And I guess from what you're saying is no, the commission is the ones who...
They do have
have
they
representation.
do have a say, but
Representation.
they have an independent commission. They have the ARLC, which is old. So Peter V'landys came in. He was from horse racing. He was not. He was, he's from Wollongong. It's a rugby league area, and he was a rugby league lover. But he didn't have any role. He was very successful in racing. He still does both jobs. But they brought someone outside in to corral, and the independent commissioners. Obviously, some of them are accident nationals, but they're high-flung business people.
But there's two other things as well with that. One is the clubs had to get to a point where they wanted an independent commission. So there's got to be the will within the game to say, as long as you give us due reward, we will agree to being told what to do. We want representation on the commission, because there is club representation.
Yes, as
but
there
you've
should
got to
be.
get to the
As there
point
should be.
where they say that we will abide by what the commission tells. But the other thing is how well rewarded those clubs have been since the commission came in.
Yeah.
The amount of money that has been generated to feed back to the clubs to quell the resistance.
Yes.
And that's what you've got to get to. You've got to get to the point where you agree, you acknowledge the fact that you have a disease, and that disease can only be cured by an independent commission being set up, and then B, that is going to bring in sufficient money, and you go, right, well, if you give me £3 million a year, $3 million, going up to $6 million a year after you increase the salary cap and you do I will be told that I'm going to Magic Weekend in Brisbane.
But I'll use an example.
We're nowhere near that.
I use it. Yeah, I know. I get that. But I use it. There's got to be a bottom. There's got to be a bottoming out point.
Well, I think this is it.
Well, I use the example of Catalans though. They're supposed to be a fully fledged member of Super League. It's their 20th year, and the other clubs just say, "All right, we're just going to charge you £1 million."
Yeah.
Like that's just nonsense. Like
Well,
it's just the contractual.
The other thing about
why
that
these
is-
clubs, and they're the ones who wanted it.
Yeah.
They've pushed it through because it's about self-preservation. It's not about growing the sport. It's not about making everything bigger.
It's being part. Them
It's
being
looking
part
after
of
themselves.
But I do
That's
think
why they shouldn't be in charge.
that you move to. You're not going to get an independent commission until you come under the auspices, for example, of the NRL, who will say, well, it works with an independent commission, so if you want us to invest, it's an independent commission. So yes, we want these clubs, and we're, hello, Mr. Radlinski, we know who you are, nice man.
I listen.
Why don't we put him in charge of the sport?
I just think
he chats to the NRL, he's mates with them, put him in charge.
I just think we're at a point in the game at the moment which is going to change the governance of it. And the one thing we didn't do when we brought IMG in was change the governance of the sport so that they can propose what they want. We were at the only press conference they've ever really given when they were unveiled. And amongst the things they said, and we keep bringing it up, was they didn't want loop fixtures. They wanted a group stage in the Challenge Cup. They wanted a new event instead of Magic. It wasn't that they didn't want Magic.
The clubs
rejected
it.
it. So
but it's IMG's
but
fault.
but the thing about that is, if you have you need to bring in an independent commission that says, we're not going to ask you.
Well, they're not. They're a consultant. They're not an independent commission. I listened to a great podcast a couple of weeks ago, John Quayle with Mark Burris. Mark Burris is on the board of the Sydney Roosters. John Quayle, for those who don't know, ran the New South Wales Rugby League in the 80s, and it was under his... People probably forget, or people who aren't as old as us, don't remember that Rugby League was actually in Australia, was in a bad way in the 70s and in the early 80s. And it was under his leadership and the leadership of Ken Alston before the Super League War to bring in the Tina Turner campaign to expand the sport to Canberra, to Brisbane, to Newcastle. You look at the NRL now, it's absolutely flying. But they had to make big changes, and it wasn't easy. But you need strong leaders, and you need good leaders of people who can get people together for the common good. We don't have that in the UK.
But that's what that's what this coup is working towards.
And it will not succeed. Well, it will succeed, and Simon Johnson will get binned, I'm sure of that. But I don't think the people who are in charge, it's the same recycling of the same figures.
Again, what you do is you then tempt them with money to have an independent commission. Because the one thing they haven't got is money.
Chris thinks ChatGTP could help the RFL. But so say if this coup fails, is everyone going to bugger off and play Ultimate Rugby under Derek's rules?
Well, that's just another example of nonsensical idiocy. But
that gets picked up and run with by...
Well, I mean, part of the problem is careless people, amplifying that sort of stuff. But that's probably a discussion for a different time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's just another example, Rich. We could do a whole episode of examples, but people will be even more bored.
Well, Kevin's ready for 14 teams, so we can bring in Bradford and somebody else. Not York, because they lost yesterday.
Well, London...
London nearly beat Bradford.
But London, I think, is a strategic place that the NRL and or ARLC or any commission that we had here would identify.
Yeah, but the other clubs don't want London.
Yeah,
they don't want to support London.
It's got to get to the point where... Give me enough money and I'll support anything. Yeah, otherwise, we're never going to have an independent commission.
Well, the only money that's going to come in, and you know this better than I do, there's two areas. Private equity, which are already knocked back.
Not going down.
Which is probably smart, yeah.
And we don't even know. I mean, the NRL has got a lot of money, but the NRL is only going to invest money if they know they can make money.
The NRL's figures were out last night, and they're impressive.
They are, yeah.
And they do have money. They do have money.
But that's because they changed the way the business was run about 15 years ago.
But they're not going to invest in. My point is, they are not going to invest over here if they can't see a return. Exactly. And if they can't see a return because the clubs can't be trusted, their money will be contingent upon a commission running the sport here.
Well, I may have written a season preview last week for the Eye, and I may have interviewed you and Anthony Broxton. And it was interesting looking back. Obviously, it wasn't in this country in 1996, but the launch of Super League, and had some feedback on Facebook. There was the death of rugby league, and everything was crap.
That picture of Maurice Lindsay and Mal Meninga with the big sign? That picture.
But I mean, I think yourself and Anthony made some really interesting comments, and I think Anthony's point was, we started with a bang, and things were going great till 2006, and I think 2008, 10,000 odd average. Well, at the moment we're about 9, but from that we dropped. We've gone up a little bit in crowds, which is great. But we didn't. Super League wasn't actually what was the original vision because the mergers didn't happen. Because the clubs opposed that, and obviously the MPs and a lot of fans did. But it's just a whole cycle repeating itself, Phil, and until that cycle gets broken.
The difference was that £87 million was put into the game that year.
But it still wasn't enough to actually force through and make the change.
But that's why I think the money that may or may not come in through the NRL, and nobody knows, will be contingent upon a different governance structure that is similar to the Australia. That if we can generate the kind of income that makes the clubs a partner in the ARLC, but not a dominant force.
They're not going to want 3 teams in Wakefield. They're not going to want 3 teams in Cumbria. They're not going to want 4 teams.
We don't know what they want, but
I'm pretty sure about that.
No,
they don't want as many teams in Sydney. So
it feels like Sydney, and it's a big metropolitan city. Multicultural.
7 million people.
They'll want a presence in France. They'll want a presence in London.
They will.
They want
a presence in Cumbria, I would imagine.
An element of expansion in the whole, but we can speculate about that till the cows come home, but it's irrelevant to the fact that you've got to get to the point where they want to invest.
It also goes back to, though, if we don't actually learn from our history and what's happened before, we just bring back the same people.
But I think what you've said is right, that it needs a commission, but the only way you're going to get a commission is if you get investment from the NRL, and that is one of the conditions of their investment.
This podcast has been going since March, not this edition, March 20.
Although it feels like
I know, March 2014.
Dear listener.
So that's 40 minutes on
How long's the
governance.
magazine been going now?
2011 was
2011. John's got a copy in front of him, and he's relevant here because Chris has said,
I love this.
why not look at people who have revitalised minority sports, e.g. Barry Hearn for snooker and darts, somebody who can see an opportunity and make it successful. Now, there is, again, the caveat that there's a big difference between individual sports and team sports, because Barry Hearn's tried to do it with things like netball and basketball, and it hasn't worked. But here's a copy of 4020 magazine.
May 2013, Barry Hearn, saviour of Super League. Ahead of the curve.
The view never changes.
Ahead of the curve by about 9 years.
The view never changes.
Yeah.
You just recycle that article every few years, don't you?
No, you just
it's like my column.
Change the first name.
Change the date.
In 20 years, it'll be Eddie's daughter or son.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting debate, and it's not quite as clear cut as some headlines would want you to believe.
We haven't talked
about... I think depth in media and this debate is severely lacking. That's why you should read 4020.
Depth in media. Have we got more squad depth in the media than
more depth than I used to have?
Oh. We haven't talked about Warrington Huddersfield, because it was Huddersfield Warrington, and it's like
to be honest,
it's
again,
just a game, wasn't it?
And it was an improvement in Huddersfield.
Yeah.
They were good. Huddersfield, they were really good. Yeah,
there was a unity about them.
Everyone's written them off. Let's be fair. Yeah.
And they have had probably more injuries going into the season than any other club, and they were in that game until 5 minutes from time. So full credit to Luke Robinson and what he's been able to do in the close season when he hasn't even had all his players available to train. Even Tane Milne has gone back to Australia for the birth of his child, which again, as a coach, you just go like, we just brought you in, and now you're not.
I mean, if you'd seen him playing for South, it's not really a great essence, but yeah,
he's one of the name players, and Warrington did enough to get a victory in round one, which is what you want.
Surely Sam Burgess, bit of the hairdryer.
The Burgess
effect.
Because
they were first half. I mean, that opening try was just catch the bloody ball. I mean, that's
is that your coaching.
I'm not Wayne Bennett, but I do know some basics.
Don't go for an interception near your own line.
Yeah, I mean, that was the next bit. But Matt Duffy, I mean, him and I can't remember whether it was the winger or a centre, but the lack of communication for that try was terrible. Matt Duffy made up for it with some great attacking play, but
is that the problem with Warrington? Is Matt Duffy last year great in attack?
Well, he's always
that's not changed.
When he was at the Dragons, and he's a very skillful footballer. He's quick. He's got a great footy brain, but he's never been the greatest defender. He's probably never been the greatest organiser, but. I think Warrington, maybe they thought a bit like Holcar and Cuss, maybe they thought Huddersfield would be easy, and it wasn't easy. Maybe they've got one eye on Vegas, I don't know, but as you said, look, the relief for them is they got the win.
They're off the mark.
And their second half was a lot better, but it wasn't a good performance.
You don't want to be at your
best in
round one.
No,
but they need to find that focus for this week because they're playing a team who were obviously disappointing
Yeah.
last week.
I just think
the
issue for Warrington is around scrum half. Because there's clearly no doubt that link between...
That's why they wanted to get Mark Sneed in.
Yeah, the link between George Williams and Matt Duffy is incredibly destructive, but not disruptive.
No.
Destructive. It's been a long show already.
Yes.
But somebody's got to get the ball to George Williams in the right part of the field, and they needed Leon Hayes back. They wanted Leon Hayes back. He's still about a month away.
Well, yeah, he got another injury in the pre-season. So
they brought Ollie Leyland. They played him in the trials.
But he's probably not ready.
But he's not ready to play week in, week
chubby,
out.
apparently.
I'm not sure it's that. I just think,
that was a quote, but...
with the greatest respect to him, I think he's not been put under the kind of defensive duress playing for London that he's going to be spotlighted at Warrington. So they played Stefan Ratchford at scrum half, who... again, has a fantastic record in this sport and owes nobody anything, but I'm not sure he's a scrum half.
No. I to be honest, I'm surprised with their recruitment. I mean, there's not a lot of mature age, good English halves, but Josh Drinkwater did a great job for them. And,
he did the job that he needed to do.
He's an experienced professional.
His job was to kick the ball and,
he was
to
an organiser.
give it to George Williams.
Yeah. But they've not really, obviously they couldn't foresee what was going to happen with Leon Hayes. But that's an issue. That's why they went in. That's why they went in for Mark Sneed.
Size of the pack as well. I think they've lost some bulk in the pack. And again, they weren't as dominant up front as they were in some of the games last year. They weren't able to roll around their
there
bench.
was a big Burgess playing for Huddersfield.
Who they tried to sign apparently, but didn't.
I would imagine. I mean, I don't have any inside information, but I would imagine Huddersfield threw a bit more coin his way.
A lot of coin.
Yeah.
For a prop forward.
Well, look,
that key position on. I don't want to be as this program knows. I've got to.
He's had a great
prop forward.
He's had a great career. Well, at every level, South Sydney for England, etc. And this is the final stop, and he's earned a big payday. But yeah, I think look, it's going to be a hard season for Huddersfield. I know they'll have players coming back, but
there was some spirit there.
There was spirit, and I think it's the same with Castleford. There was some spirit, but can you see either of those teams not finishing in the bottom four?
No.
Neither can I. But it is good, and I think.
But what you want is the difference between the top and the bottom to be narrow.
That's what I was. You read my mind, Phil. I
concertina.
think that's why the round one was so great because we had. I would have thought Warrington would have won by 16 or more. I would have thought Holko would have won by 20 or more. I thought Catalan would have won at least by 10 or 12. Yeah, and I think Lee. I think most people would expect Lee to have been beaten by whatever score. So I think round one's been fantastic. Rugby league is a soap opera, and let it long continue.
I love rugby league, me. Kevin's happy because Warrington got 2 points. And also says Vaughan was back to his best in the game yesterday. Other results, and Widnes who've drawn Warrington in the Challenge Cup, which is going to be a great tie. What a win for them away at Toulouse, 18-14 to open their championship season.
Didn't get enough publicity, but that is a fantastic
It's great for our friend who watches the podcast, who's a Widnes supporter. And because people keep forgetting this, Toulouse stream their games on YouTube for free, so you can watch these games.
I believe they're
geo-blocked. You can only watch them in France.
People who know how to find these things and watch them for free can watch them.
Google. Have you got how do I get a vid?
Who's got a Fire Stick?
No, but that's good. I mean, that's great in France, though, that they are.
If they're stick them on Super League Plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Elsewhere in the Championship, Barrow beat Hunslet 38-12.
Which I think, again, is a fantastic result for Barrow because we know the trials and tribulations they've had, but they were comprehensive winners there.
Bradford beat London 20 points to 6.
But struggled.
Fev beat Doncaster 22-4. Oldham beat York 50 points to 4. I didn't see that result. Not the result necessarily, but the depth, the width of the scoreline.
No,
Oldham are spending a lot of money.
They are spending.
But that's a big win against a team that a lot of people think is going to be in the top 4.
They've got players there on 50, 60 grand a year. I'm not. I think I'll be at the top. Well, it depends which song.
Sheffield 14, Halifax 28. I don't know how Connie Howell did, but
great result for Halifax. That.
And in the 1895 Cup, second qualifying round, or I don't know what stage right now. It's not mine. It's the RFL. It's their fault. Who should we blame at the RFL for that?
Robert Hicks.
Robert Hicks. Simon Johnson. Simon Johnson has named the 1895 Cup rounds. Gull beat Crusaders 26-18. What a win for Gull.
Yes. When you think they were coming off an 82-0 defeat.
They didn't play bad against Wakefield.
I'm just saying that.
Gull versus Salford.
Even though it's a rookie coach, that is a really important sign.
I think not the best thing about Gull, but one of the things they're doing very well is they actually send out press releases.
They do.
Not many Championship or League One guys actually do it, so they promote themselves. So good on them.
Keighley 7, Hurricane 6. Rochdale 18, Swinton 16, Workington 10, Dewsbury 18. No. Our friend Abby, though, she's happy because she's a Rochdale fan. So that's good news. What else has happened?
You've been to watch the women.
I went to watch the women train yesterday, cause it's on brand, isn't it? They look cohesive and all those kind of things. It's just interesting watching the team train, because I think I've done that for a long time.
Was it intense? But
well, I haven't got a clue.
Have they got
jogging looked intense to me.
Have they gotten over the omission of Emily Rodge? Well,
they all seem to be smiling and running around.
That was just for you, for the cameras.
Just for me, for the cameras. Yeah. It's You don't want to say it's a free hit, but it is a free hit because they're all good players. They're not bad players. Just Australia are Australia.
The interesting thing is you got confirmation that it was going to be 70 minutes.
70 minutes, yeah, there's the exclusive.
You would think that will help them.
Well, that's what Amy Hardcastle said.
I think what will help them too is the fact that the Australian coach, well, he's not been sacked, but he's stood down. It's kind of a bizarre... Well, he's been in that job for a long time.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's going to matter because
might help a little bit.
The interim that they brought in knows them all, so...
Yeah, but I mean, he's been in charge of that team for 6 or 7 years.
I mean, probably 2 World Cups. Lost 1 game.
Probably
it's not bad. Not bad.
It's not a bad record, is it? He'll get another job.
I'm going to suggest that the intensity of the training session was not at the intensity of the Maori All Stars versus the Indigenous All Stars. That would be my suggestion.
Which is good. I enjoyed watching that.
But they haven't. They haven't picked Jamie Chapman. She was like, she scores tries and stuff. So, be interesting to see how it goes. It's still. I don't want to. I've made my prediction. I don't want to upset people. It's like, I'm not saying Australia will win comfortably because I don't want England to win. I want England to win, obviously, but have I put Australia on a pedestal? I might have put them on.
Hopefully, it's not Salford v St Helens. I don't think anyone. No, I don't think it will be. But hopefully, it's a competitive game and a close scoreline.
And the fact that there are now going to be 4 English players out in the NRLW because Trent Goldthorpe's going back, isn't she?
It's great.
I think it's only a good thing for the English national team. Yeah,
Paige Travis going out there now and looking to be part of the Mad Parramatta Eels squad. Holly Mae Dodd, who I was thinking about this when I was speaking to her yesterday. We don't make enough of her story because she made her debut age 16 in the Challenge Cup final. Made her debut in the Challenge Cup, which I know when you look at it in more detail, you think, right, okay. Moves to Australia. So in a 5-year spell, she's gone from school to playing in Australia, and we had COVID in the middle of that. That's not a bad achievement. She said, "You make me sound old." No, I'm twice your age. That's all. not 21 and playing in the NRLW and going to Vegas. No. So I'm looking forward to it. Is it 2 a.m. or something ridiculous?
2:30, I think.
2:30.
Not for me, Rich.
Well, you'll be there.
I will be there.
Are you looking forward to it?
Is a Pope Catholic?
Question I said.
Yes.
So, Vicky Whitfield, are you looking forward to Vegas?
No one looks forward to Vegas. There's too much sin.
It's if you can get out alive.
I've missed flights previous times I've been to Vegas, so I need to make sure I don't miss my flight.
You'll get to sightsee though. That's
I've been twice before, so I'm not really fussed.
The players haven't got time to do that. They're busy doing whatever they're doing.
No, I'm very much looking forward to it, Rich. Land on Tuesday, fly back on the Sunday after the games, and I think it's going to be an amazing week. I think anyone who saw the games or read the coverage last year had, as Chris Radlinski put it, FOMO, wanted to be there. And I think this year will be even bigger and better because there is the additional England v Gillaroos and Wigan v Warrington games.
I would like to be there, but like the NRL commentary teams, I'll be at home watching instead. So I see that's a big story in Australia, as if
Andrew Voss commentating on Wigan and Warrington.
Is he? Wow. Well, that'll please everyone, won't it? Because everyone loves Andrew Voss, so that'll be good. Tim says Barrow streamed their game against Huntly yesterday. That's interesting. I didn't see that. So that's a shame because more clubs should do that and monetize it. But I don't know why they don't outside the Super League because there's no TV deal. You can do whatever you want. It's lawless society. Vegas. That'll be our big Vegas preview then next week, won't it?
Yes, Vegas baby.
Have I missed anything else we need to talk about? What else was on your list?
What's this making a list like?
I know.
Well, there was some questions.
Oh, did you have some questions? What's the question?
Go on then.
Does the sale of a fan-owned club to a Swiss property investor as a fairly transparent shell for his ambitions to develop land around the game represent a wise step for the people's game?
Well, that's a loaded question. What's happened to the fans? Did they get a say in whether they sell their shares or not, or was it all a sham? Sham's okay as a word, I think. Sham's okay as a word.
I'm not sure about that bit, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult question, isn't it? I mean,
why would you invest if you didn't have the property development angle?
Because
you're just buying debt otherwise.
Well, I think probably idealistically, everyone, perhaps like Matt Ellis at Wakefield or Rich may say, you want a fan who loves your
Messiah.
club, who's going to put money in and not.
I could not care
Yeah.
less. You ask most supporters if some terrorist organisation put billions of pounds into their
You
club.
talking about Newcastle United?
No, and they won like stuff. No, 'cause Newcastle United aren't winning anything. Then they would not care less because they just want their team to be successful.
And I think as well that Matt Ellis is shrewd enough to know that there will be some kind of payback for him, even if that's not
A statue.
even if that's not exactly monetary in the first instance. That he's not doing it just because there isn't a commercial imperative.
But
there's
a fair point I think about the Salford situation is that they want the stadium, they want the land around the stadium. There seems to be a link between music promotion and concerts. From the story that I wrote, they're New Zealand businessmen. How this develops, I don't know, but yeah.
The other interesting thing is Chris who's a shareholder, but he's only the assistant coach, so that's going to make some interesting work discussions further down the line.
Well, I think it was through his connections to
but he is
two
a
of his
shareholder,
fellow New Zealanders of Polynesian heritage. Yeah, I mean.
So how does that work as a dynamic when you sat around in a management group?
I'm not sure.
You're the boss, you own the shares.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's.
I want to go this direction.
Yeah,
we're going.
I think there's a lot to play out in that in the future.
Any other questions?
I think one of them was early opinions on the captain's challenge.
Oh, that went well.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
I think was it the whole KO or the Cass one, which was correct, but the fact that they knocked on the ball immediately after was but it was a good challenge.
They shouldn't have lost their challenge for that because the incident that they challenged, they were right.
Yeah.
So that. Yeah. I think, was it Warrington went very, very early with theirs?
7 minutes, I think it was.
Which was ridiculous.
For a potential dropout, yeah. Well, I guess that's one way you think...
I suppose it takes a bit of getting used to, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I like the captain's challenge.
Yeah.
It's nothing...
As long as it's done relatively quickly, because I can't remember who it was where I saw it on social media yesterday. Somebody was saying, it might even have been Steve Mascord, saying, is it my imagination or is the captain's challenge decided a lot quicker in the NRL?
Well, that's everything over here. RugbyLeague.com executive content director Steve Mascord.
I think when you've got a lot more cameras and
a
lot more stuff
bunker.
and an actual bunker, yeah.
Surely, because Mr. Baldsworth mentioned this to me the other day, you get an extra challenge in Golden Point, is that right? Why did Wigan not challenge the Golden Point? For no reason, for spurious reasons.
You mean the
just say there was a knock on or something.
Well,
because they do it in tennis all the time, they do it in cricket all the time. Last wicket goes down, we'll review that.
Yeah.
We'll
the
that. Even though they know
thing with Golden Point is you see this a lot in the NRL, and I know their coach that is that generally the defensive line and all the markers are offside because they think that you're unlikely to. And you do get away with it quite a lot. But I can't remember exactly where the Wigan line was at that point. I think they were okay. But yeah, you probably would have.
Just to be a bit of a git and stop the celebrations. Just say, we'll review that, sir. Yeah, have a look at that. Even though you know that it's not. It's like a frivolous appeal, but you're allowed to do it because there's no mechanism to say that you just take.
You lose your captain's challenge.
You're taking the mickey there. You can't do that. Is that everything?
I think so.
What's coming up this week? So we've got Wigan and Catalans on Friday, which is the Luke Little. Warrington Catalan, sorry. Wigan haven't got any good darts players. Apologies to Joe Cullen fans there. Wakefield versus Hull KR. The return of... I always go back to this game because
Matty Staunton return?
It's one of the great games ever because it was on Sky in the early days. Wakefield got new floodlights at Bellevue. Imagine that. New floodlights. Rest of the ground's still crap, but they had new
floodlights. Did they have
those
chairs?
91. Those chairs were probably somewhere. 1991, I'm there, Hull KR, Sunday night game, fireworks, everything's going off. We lose horribly. Brightsodgy scores a hat-trick, and I'm behind the goals booing him like this. Seen on Sky, the first appearance.
You're one of those. At least you weren't doing a wanker gesture.
I didn't know that at that point.
That was a different Wakefield fan, wasn't it?
Didn't know that at that point, no. I had my bobble hat on and booing, but bobble hats are back in fashion now, and booing should be too. So Wakefield Hull KR is back. Great memories for me on that one. Leeds are at Salford with the Happy Mondays, apparently.
I mean, let's just...
Who knows which
Let's
Salford?
just hope and pray...
It's a proper Salford.
Yeah. I mean...
The Nanny McDonald derby.
if it continues on, you do worry about the rest of their season.
Well, you wonder how does it end?
Well,
At what point does somebody say...
Or do the new owners just go, all right, well, we've had enough off your pot?
Or do the new owners pass the fit and proper persons test?
Has anyone not passed?
Well, it's like the media accreditation, isn't it? Wave them all in. Wave them all in. I was trying to come up with a Happy Mondays pun based on any of their titles, but I'm struggling to fit.
Wigan Hull, or Hull Wigan, which will be interesting.
And then they meet again in the Challenge Cup in a few weeks' time.
Is that Friday? I think.
And Lee Huddersfield's on the telly on the BBC.
Yeah.
So who have we got left? Is that all of them? Cass. Who did Cass play?
Cass play St Helens.
There you go. The Tom
On
Maguire
Friday- on Friday
Tom
night.
Maguire. No, it's Saturday at 8 o'clock.
Oh, is it Saturday night?
8 o'clock, yeah, because it came on
It's
Sky
an unusual.
yesterday. I'm sure it's... Let me check that now, because now you've said that, I'm
No, I don't
myself.
know. I don't know.
Because I thought...
I just assumed.
8 o'clock on a Saturday, that's a strange time, isn't it?
But not on the BBC.
8 o'clock. So you got Salford Leeds at 3, and then Cass St Helens at 8.
Oh, good. I'll be back in time to watch.
It's a bit strange, isn't it? The Championship on... are there any Friday games this week? No. On Sunday, Halifax Barrow, Hunslet Bradford, London Fev, Oldham Batley, Widnes Sheffield, York Toulouse, and then in League One, because League One starts this week, happy League One season, Dewsbury Crusaders, Gull Hurricanes, Rochdale Keighley, Swinton Whitehaven, and Working versus Cornwall. And again, it's the discrepancy in why are Dewsbury known as Dewsbury, Crusaders called Crusaders and not North Wales? Why are Gull Vikings, but Hurricanes are just Hurricanes? They're not the Dolphins.
Well, good luck to Workington in their first game of the season going to Cornwall.
When will we next see a
7,000 mile round trip to start the season.
Have they started GoFundMe yet? Or crowdfunder? When will we ever see a 0-0 again? Will we ever see a 0-0?
No. But I enjoyed every minute of it.
As Kevin says, Arsenal for putting out a full team. Who knows? Paul Rowley is not on the podcast. I'd love to see who's on
I don't think at this point Paul Rowley knows.
I'd love to see his list of 15 that he gave to the RFL. Did he write it in crayon, do you think? Here are my players this week. And he put... Who were they?
We shall wait and see.
We shall. John, enjoy Vegas.
I will. There'll be many things that may happen, but I will enjoy it one way or the other.
But what goes on in Vegas will in fact stay in Vegas.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, I'll probably write about it actually, but yeah.
You're at Wakefield on... I'll probably see you on Thursday. If they let me in.
I'm looking forward to the plush new surrounds.
So the luxury press box. Yeah, luxury press box. With sandwiches and food. There's food now.
Food.
Not soup
Nice
like
food.
at Hull.
The thing was that
There was loads of food for me last week. It was great.
even when Wakefield were poor, they had chips.
Yeah. But now we're rich.
Yeah.
Oh, it's caviar. The finest caviar.
I thought it was curry and chips.
Finest caviar. What else do...
Don Perino.
Pizza.
Pizza. What else do rich people... Caviar on pizza. Caviar, burgers, everything. Old Trafford, here we come. So you're off to Salford.
I'll be going to Salford all being well.
You might get a game for Salford.
Yeah, you
Take your kid.
Take the knee bandage.
We'll be back next Monday to talk about it all. Look forward to Vegas and see what. Are there any more coups next week? Do you think? Are there any more coups?
I'll let you know.
Are you working on anything that we can
I
look
am
out
actually
for?
working on
Well,
something.
I know you
but
always
I
are.
can't.
I know you can't tell us.
yeah.
But where's Ronnie? Where's Ronnie? I can't see him. I've lost Ronnie the Rhino. Oh, hang on, here he is. There he is. See you later, everybody. Thanks for watching and downloading the podcast.